Chapter 1 Birth of Jinabai. In the small town of Dari, in the Amreli district of Saurashtra, there lived a devotee by the name of Devchandbhai Vasani of the Lohane community. Jitabai, the grandfather of Devchandbhai, was a blessed devotee of Shree Maharaj. Yogiji Maharaj, the son of Devchandbhai, born at Dari on the 12th day of the dark half of the month of Vaishak in the year of Vikram Samvat 1948. His mother's name was Puribai. His original name was Jinabai, but his parents lovingly called him Jina. Jina was loved by everyone. All were captivated by his handsome, shining face. When Jina was a child, his mother daily carried him along to the cotton farm. Other village women who came to pluck cotton also brought their children with them. The women would leave their children under the shade of a tree before commencing their work in the fields. Sometimes their children, failing to see their mothers, would cry loudly. This infuriated the farm owner. He scolded the women daily. "Why do you bring your wailing children to my farm?" The farmer, however, never became angry with Jina's mother. Looking at Jina, the owner always remarked, "Jina is a miracle child. Look, he always sucks his toe, just as Sri Krishna did. Puribai, one day everybody will fall at his feet, they will worship him." Gradually, Jina grew up, and he was popularly called Jinabai. Jinabai, though young, had strong feelings for simplicity and cleanliness. He was devoted to nothing but bhakti and meditation. There is a confluence of three rivers on the outskirts of Dari. The place of the confluence is known as Triveni Sangam. The resulting river is called the river Setrangi. The Setrangi narrows on a reaching bridge and shrinks to the size of a small rivulet under the bridge. Inhabitants of Dari call this Patlio Jaro. Exactly at the spot near the bridge, Jinabai used to have his daily bath in the morning. He would wear clean clothes after his bath and then sit in an upright posture and perform meditation for hours together. He meditated upon the divine form of Shriji Maharaj. To many who saw Jinabai seated in meditation at such a lonely place, it seemed as if Dhruv himself was meditating. They invariably stood and watched the young Jina steeped in meditation. Sometimes friends of Jinabai would come to have their bath at Patlio Jaro. They were amazed to find Jinabai wrapped in meditation. They would wait for him till he came out of his meditation, and then they would always inquire, "What were you doing?" And Jinabai would reply, "I try to remember God. Will you join me? I will try to teach you the art of meditation." From his childhood, Jinabai never failed to do his meditation every morning. He advised everyone to start their morning work only after remembering Sri Jinabai's courage. Jinabai came into the 5th standard. Tribhavandanas was the headmaster of their school. He was a very hot-tempered man. One day, Tribhavandanas severely thrashed a boy named Chandu. Jinabai could not bear to see the boy suffer. He felt pity for Chandu, who was innocent of any wrongdoings. Jinabai, not knowing what to do, started chanting the name of Swaminarayan. Chandu screamed with pain. Tribhavandanas continued thrashing him until he fell down unconscious. The children ran helter-skelter from fear of the teacher. Later, Chandu died as a result of the severe beating. Chandu's father reported the case to the inspector, and an inquiry was opened. The inspector came to the school to investigate, but who dare bear witness against the headmaster? The inspector asked all of the students in the class. No one was bold enough to report the truth. Jinabai always spoke the truth, whatever the consequences. When the inspector questioned Jinabai, he felt, why should he be afraid of the headmaster? He boldly addressed the inspector. Our headmaster had mercilessly beaten the innocent Chandu until he fell to the ground. When Jinabai spoke up, all of the other students shouted with one voice, "Yes, sir! It was the headmaster who had beaten Chandu to death." Looking closely at the forehead of Jinabai, the inspector saw the holy mark of Tilak Chanlo. Innocence and honesty were written on Jina's face. He believed Jinabai and immediately dismissed the headmaster. He rewarded Jinabai with a prize for speaking the truth fearlessly. The truthful always triumph. Therefore, we should not be afraid of telling the truth. We should form a habit of speaking the truth from an ideal student. Jinabai was very clever in his studies. He always stood first in every class. All through his career, he won many prizes. Sometimes dull or lazy students would sit beside Jina with the hope of copying his exercises. Some bullies would threaten Jina. "When you have done all your questions, you had better tell us the answers." Jina laughed and said, "All right, I will tell you. I will tilt my slate so you can see everything I have written." Whenever the teacher set any problem, Jina solved it immediately and would turn the slate upside down. All those around him who had neglected their previous lessons would ask and whisper, "What is the answer?" But Jina kept silent. One day, some of the boys threatened him. Jina, show us your slate, otherwise we will beat you up. But Jina was not frightened, because he had a good reason for not showing. He said, if my answer is wrong, then your answer will also be wrong. Whenever other students succeeded in copying his work, Jinabai did not like it. He would tell them off. It's wrong to copy. By copying, you are cheating God. Thus, Jinabai always insisted that others should learn by working hard and should not cheat. It is a sin to copy. We should remember these words from Jinabai whenever we are tempted to copy from others. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a half-an-hour recess for the class. During the recess, students played games like Koko, hide and seek, chase and catch, and Amli Pipli. Jinabai was not fond of games. He preferred to spend his time in prayer. When other children played games, Jinabai prayed to God in a quiet corner or under a tree. Other boys often wondered what Jina was doing. The teacher, too, would ask his friends, "What does Jina do while others play?" They replied, "He always meditates during the recess period." One day, 2 teachers saw Jina while he was meditating under a tree. "Jina," they asked, "why don't you play any games? You meditate on God all the time. If you are not interested in the affairs of the world, why don't you become a saint?" "I will become a saint one day," he replied, a determined Jina. So saying, he resumed his prayers. How could the teachers of Jinabai know at the time that Jinabai would become a saint and become worship of the Lord? For years, Uncle Mohanbai had been performing the morning and evening worship and service of God in the temple of Dari. But due to old age and frequent illness, he could no longer look after the temple properly. He sincerely wished that Jinabai, because of his natural inclination to worship, consider performing the temple services. He once suggested Jinabai that he should take up the duty. Jinabai was overjoyed and assured him, "Uncle, you will need not worry. I will look after the daily services with all my heart." Without a moment's delay, Jinabai started to perform the temple routine and the service of the Lord. He would bathe the image of the Lord lovingly, applying sandalwood paste and the kumkum mark, light the lamp of incense, and perform the arati. His heart leaped with joy whilst he offered devotion to the Lord. Besides all this, he would draw water from the well and water the plants in the compound of the temple. Within a short time, the garden was filled with the sweet fragrance of flowers. Every day in the morning, Jinnah made garlands of flowers of various colors for the Lord. He prepared varieties of dishes and offered to the Lord. He would serve the image as if the Lord himself was physically present. Quite often, he conversed with the image. In the morning, as well as in the evening, he would bring his friends to the temple. There, he taught them how to chant the name of Swaminarayan. He used to sing bhajans and asked others to sing with him. He taught them how to perform arti and also how to prostrate before the Lord. Before they left, he would initiate me as a saint. Now Jinabai has passed his days and nights in the temple. He worshipped the Lord with a single-minded devotion. Jina would also serve the saints during their short stays in Dari. All of them were pleased with his service and would bless him. Jinabai, attending the school, passed the standard 7 exams. At the time, Sri Krishna Charan Das Swami, along with his group of saints, visited Dari. On seeing the saints, Jinabai was extremely pleased. He was in their service from early morning till late night. He would get up early in the morning and have his bath. After completing his morning prayers, he would attend to the needs of the saints. He helped them by drawing water from the well for their bath. He would sweep the temple floor and neatly arrange the mats for the saints to sit and meditate upon. He served them all throughout the day. Sadguru Krishna Charan Das was a blessed follower of Sri Grandayan Swami, the incarnation of Akshar Brahm. He was gratified to see the devotion of Jinabai. He appreciated the zeal with which he worked. He also found that Jinabai, though often very tired, never stinted in his daily duties and services at the temple. One morning, while giving prasad to Jinabai, he asked him, "Jina, would you like to become a saint?" Jinabai was filled with joy at Swami's question. He replied eagerly, "Yes, Swamiji, I would be happy if you would make me a sadhu. It is my only ambition in life. For the last few days, I was hoping to talk to you about it, but today you yourself have read my secret wish. Swamiji, please initiate me as a saint. I want to serve the Lord and also you, whom I regard as my guru." Swami Krishnacharan Das Ji blessed him and said, "Your wish will be fulfilled." In Junagadh. A year later, Jinabai had obtained permissions from his parents to become a sadhu. Mother Puribai prepared kansar, sweetmeat, and served her son for the last time, applying the auspicious red mark, kumkum, to his forehead and wishing him fulfillment on his new life. She gave him a proud but sorrowful send-off. On the 7th day of the bright half of the month Kartik in the year of Vikram Samvat 1965, Jinabai left home. He set out for Junagadh. On the way, he was accompanied by his elder brother Kamal Shibai. On the very next day, they met Swami Krishna Charan Das Ji. On the full moon day of the month of Kartik, in the year Vikram Samvat 1965, Jinabai was initiated into Parshad Diksha by Krishna Charandas Swami. He was then given the name Jina Bhagat. Jina Bhagat immediately took on various duties at the temple. In those days, the Parshads were entrusted with the task of grazing the cows and buffaloes of the temple. Jina Bhagat would go along with the other Parshads to the borders of Mount Girnar to graze the cattle. While the cattle were browsing, Jina Bhagat sang bhajans and memorized verses of Swami Vatu. In the evening, Jina Bhagat would return to the temple along with the herd of cattle. On the way back, he would cut out babul sticks used for brushing teeth in the morning for all 300 saints in the temple. Besides this, every morning he cleaned the cowsheds and collected cow dung. He would then make little flat cakes out of the dung and place them in the sun to dry. They were used for fuel. In spite of fatigue from the day's work, Jina Bhagat always attended the religious meetings every evening. He would sing bhajans and chant the Swaminarayan mantra. Then he would stay and listen to the discourses till late night. Next morning he would get up at 4 in the morning to serve his guru once again. Such was his daily routine. He earned the blessings of Swami Krishna Charan Das by serving him devoutly for 6 months. We, too, should please the saints by serving them faithfully. Jaga Bhakta appears in a dream. During those days, Krishnaji Ada and Pujaji Bapu were frequent visitors to Junagadh. Jina Bhagat listened to their preachings. Krishnaji Ada narrated many incidents about the greatness of Jaga Bhakta. Day after day he would hear about the spiritual glory of Jaga Bhakta. One night a thought came to him. How great Jaga Bhakta must be! It would be most delightful if I could have his darshan. With this thought he fell asleep. During his sleep, at 2 o'clock in the morning, he had a wonderful dream. He dreamt that Jaga Bhakta was standing before him. Jaga Bhakta had put on a dhoti and a white turban on his head. Jina Bhagat immediately prostrated before Jaga Bhakta and addressed him by saying, Guru, today you have fulfilled my wishes by giving me your darshan. I am highly gratified. Please say a few words of wisdom that will be of some benefit to me on the spiritual path. Jaga Bhakta replied, You should keep 2 guidelines in mind. The first is to form the habit of reading the scriptures, sacred books, and the second is to keep the association of holy saints. Then Jina Bhagat again prostrated before Jaga Bhakta in his dream. When the dream was over, he woke up with a feeling of joy. The habit of reading the scriptures means reading daily the Vasanamritam, Swami Vatu, Shikshapatri, Pankshati Namani, Harilamrut, etc., with reverence and applying the wisdom contained in it. Contact of revered saints means seeking the company of God communion saints such as Satsang Maharaj. We must also cultivate these 2 habits and thus strive to achieve first meeting. Jina Bhagat belonged to a group of sadhus led by Krishna Charandas Swami. Once, Swamiji along with Jina Bhagat and other saints went to Rajkot. Early at 4 o'clock one morning, Satsang Maharaj arrived at Rajkot. He stayed at the house of Krishnaji Ada. When Jina Bhagat heard of this news, he felt a strong desire to have the darshan of Satsang Maharaj. So, early in the morning, under the pretext of going for a bath in the Aji river, Jina Bhagat, accompanied by 3 other saints, went to the house of Krishnaji Ada. When Satsang Maharaj got up at 4 o'clock, Jadavji Bhai informed him that some of the sadhus had come for darshan. Satsang Maharaj went to the room in which the sadhus were waiting. Jina Bhagat and the other sadhus paid homage to Satsang Maharaj and then presented him with a mara and a tumli, which were used by Sri Gurudhayan Swami. Satsang Maharaj was greatly pleased by the offering. Jina Bhagat could not take his eyes off the face of Satsang Maharaj and looked at him with love, and he too looked at Jina Bhagat with even greater love. Jina Bhagat thought, if I have to accept a guru, I would prefer that guru to be Satsang Maharaj, and at once he mentally accepted Satsang Maharaj as his guru. Thus, it was on the 7th day of the bright half of the month of Shravan in the year of Vikram Samvat 1965 that Jina Bhagat met Satsang Maharaj for the first time. Chapter it was 11. Like the river, I am only a servant. After staying home for some days in Rajkot, Swami Krishna Charan Das Ji and his group of sadhus resumed their tour of the villages. In the course of their tour, they had visited Hajdiala near Sardar. There was no Swaminarayan temple in the village, and therefore the saints rested at the Chora, community hall of the village. It was noon. The saints, after the afternoon sermon, retired for a short rest. Jina Bhagat, after completing his duties, also lay down for some rest. A Rajput Haribhakta, who was an expert in astrology and palmistry, was struck with wonder when he saw the soles of Jina Bhagat's feet. He had never seen such extraordinary lines on the feet of any sadhu before. Thus, when Jina Bhagat got up, he welcomed the Rajput Bhakta, and the Bhakta exclaimed, "Oh Jina Bhagat, you will be a great saint one day. People in their thousands will follow you. They will pray to you to earn your favor and blessings. Shiji Maharaj will be your constant companion. There are Udvarekhas on your soles. Holy men with Udarvekas are extremely rare. They are holy signs possessed by a saint who has constant rapport with God. On hearing these words, Jinabai at once covered his feet and said, "Don't utter things like that about me. I am just an ordinary sadhu. Krishnacharan Das Swami is a great saint. Please never speak about this to anybody." But the devotee could not remain silent. He at once disclosed his thoughts to Krishnacharan Das Swami. Swamiji smilingly said, "Yes, he possesses all of the qualities that a great sage Jinabai. The king of Mangni was a great devotee of God. At his request, Swami Krishnacharan Das would visit Mangni every year to celebrate the Ankut Mahotsav. But once, the king of Lodhkia in earnest invited Swamiji to visit Lodhkia instead, to celebrate Ankut Mahotsav. The king was a staunch devotee of the Lord. He provided all the raw materials for the Mahotsav. The saints and parshads were busy preparing the various sweetmeats from the morning till the evening. When the day of Ankut arrived, a grand festival was held. The food was first offered to the Lord, and then the king served sumptuous meals of sata and jalebi to everyone. Jinabai used to fast some days in the month. Realizing that such delicious sweets like sata and jalebi would be served on that day, he decided to observe a fast. All of the sadhus went for lunch except for Jinabai. When the king heard that Jinabai was fasting, he pleaded with him, saying, "It is a festival day today, therefore please have some food." Jinabai politely refused. The king repeated his request several times, but Jinabai told him that he had a pain in his stomach and that he could not eat anything. The king then appealed to Krishnacharan Das Swami. "Please tell the young Jinabai to have his meal today." So Swamiji asked Jinabai not to fast that day, but he gave the same reply to Swamiji, that he could not eat because of a stomach ache. Krishnacharan Das Swami was inwardly pleased to find that Jinabai was not tempted even by the tastiest of sweet to break his fast. He praised his austerity and self-control. That night he caught Jinabai and placed his hands on his head and blessed him. He advised the other young sadhus to cultivate the same attitude of austerity and self-restraint blessings. In Vadtal, on the morning of the 13th day of the bright half of Chaitra of Vikram Samvat 1967, Acharya Shree Pati Prasad Ji initiated Jinabai into the Bhagavati Diksha. Jinabai was then renamed Sadhu Gnan Jivan Das Ji, but the other sadhus and the followers called him by the name Yogi, while Krishnacharan Das Swami called him Gnanji Swami. In the year Vikram Samvat 1967, after the festival of Ekadashi on the bright half of Jyest at Junagadh, Sadhu Gnanjivan Das, Yogiji Maharaj as he was later called, along with 7 other saints left Junagadh temple to join Satsang Maharaj on his mission of propagating the noble cause of the Sri Akshar Purushottam Upasana. It was on a Saturday, the Ekadashi of the bright half of Aso of Vikram Samvat 1967, that Krishnaji Ada breathed his last. Bidding his last Yashamaran to Satsang Maharaj and the other sadhus, he asked, "Where is Gnanji Swami? Call him here." Gnani Swami, Yogiji Maharaj, who was sitting in the corner, prostrated before him and then came and stood respectfully by his side. Krishnaji Ada asked him to come near, and when he died, he placed his hands upon his head and blessed him. Nirgunanath Swami remarked, "Yogi, it is not Sri Ada alone who is blessing you, but through him, Sriji Maharaj, Gurudev Swami, Bhagaji Maharaj, and Jaga Bhakta are also blessing you." Because of his great love for all, Sri Ada's eyes welled up with tears. Then bidding Jishonaran his last farewell, he left this world a desireless saint. Yogiji Maharaj was absolutely without any desire. Though he was younger, he never wanted anything for himself. All day long, he would remain busy in Katha, Kirtan, and Seva of others. Once Yogiji Maharaj was in a group of saints in Bhavnagar. They had all put up at the house of a staunch devotee. His house was situated on a main road. It was evening, and Yogiji Maharaj was on the upper floor of the house reading the holy text Swamini Vatu. Down below, people were eagerly waiting the king's marriage procession. The procession was to pass along the main road. Both sides of the road were crowded with onlookers. Windows and balconies were full of eager spectators. Though the procession was still far off, the drums and clarinets could be heard. Suddenly, a devotee got up and approached Yogiji Maharaj and said, "Come, let us go see the royal procession. The procession is about to pass. Come to the window. Wouldn't you like to see it?" Whereupon Yogiji Maharaj replied, "How could a marriage procession concern saints like us? Would we derive any spiritual benefit? We have renounced the world, and so we have no interest in wedding processions." The devotee was amazed by his reply and the spirit of renunciation. He bowed at the feet of Yogiji Maharaj and returned quietly to his place. Because of the spirit of service and other saintly virtues inherent in his character of the veteran saint Yogiji Maharaj, Narayan Das Swami of Junagadh, who adored him, thrice sent a message. "Gnanji Swami, if you return to Junagadh, I myself will come down to Jetpur from Junagadh to welcome you and bring you here in a grand procession." But it was God's will that Gnani Swami would stay with Satsang Maharaj and help him accomplish and further many noble tasks. In Rajkot, Yogiji Maharaj unintentionally made a small mistake. Vignanda Swami, his guru, became very, very angry. and ordered Yogiji Maharaj to leave his unfinished meal as a punishment. Hargovind Mehta, who had witnessed the scene, privately asked Yogiji Maharaj, Yogi, why do you tolerate such rudeness and tyranny? Don't you feel like leaving your guru and going home? Yogiji Maharaj replied laughingly, he scolds me so that I may improve. Without our punishment as a reminder, we cannot always remain alert, nor can we correct our mistakes. Hargovind Bhai was amazed at his reply and fell at the feet of the young saint in recognition of his patience, indifferent to insult. Now Yogiji Maharaj was considered a regular member of Sasji Maharaj's mandal. While on tour with the other saints, he once went to a village by the name of Keria. They stayed at the village temple. Some evil sadhus, who were not on friendly terms with Sasji Maharaj, heard that the saints of Sasji Maharaj had put up in the temple. It was past 12 o'clock, and all the saints except Yogiji Maharaj, who was fasting that day, were having their afternoon nap. In the meanwhile, the evil sadhus came to the temple. At once, they flung clothes and other belongings of Sasji Maharaj out the temple and broke the water pots. They saw that Yogiji Maharaj was the youngest of the lot, so they caught hold of him and pushed him out of the temple. Call your Gunatit and see if he can save you, they shouted, and then pushed the blind saint Bhagwat Swarup Das Ji against the grills. Another saint was pushed along into the corner. Some, however, were beaten severely, while Vinananda Swami was locked up behind closed doors. While the saints were beating up the innocent sadhus, some of the followers of Sasji Maharaj from the village came to know about the sudden noon unrest in their temple. They hurried to the place with sticks in their hands. When they appeared upon the scene and threatened the intruders stopped their beating, and peace was quickly restored. Though they were abused, insulted, and beaten up violently, Yogiji Maharaj and his fellow saints did not utter even a harsh word against them. They offered no resistance and met the insult with a smile on their face. Their strength and patience was a monument of virtue. It rests upon all of us to remain calm and retain a peaceful composure in the face of provocation and insult, and a spirit of indifference to sorrow. A hard-working saint. Yogiji Maharaj, though physically delicate, performed many heavy tasks. From early morning to late night, he would be busy in the service of others. He never complained of fatigue. He never felt at ease in the absence of work. Even during fasts, he would serve others with a spirit of enthusiasm and love. Each day, he would get up early, and in the morning, after performing his prayers, he would start cooking in the kitchen. He would cook 300 loaves of bread. He prepared and cooked the bread simultaneously on 2 separate hot plates. Whilst cooking, Yogiji Maharaj would sing bhajans and recite Swami Vatu. Swami used to cook everything by himself for any quantity of people. When the food was ready, he would call everybody to have their meal and cry, Vasudev Hare! He himself served the food to all the saints and bhaktas, devotees. He was always the last to have his meal. Yogi, as he was popularly called, also drew water that would be required for the cooking from the well and for bathing the disciples. Every day, early in the morning, he rinsed out all the big pots and vessels and filled them with water after filtering it through a piece of cloth. In spite of such heavy work in the morning, he would go to clean the utensils after the meals occur. Even after the evening meals, he would be found cleaning the huge pots till late night. His life teaches us that we should work tirelessly and sincerely. A real saint. The saints visited one village after another to propagate our beliefs and way of life. They cared not whether it was day or night. Wherever they went, they collected flour and cooked meals from whatever they managed to get. Once, the sadhus had halted in a village called Sankara. Every morning, they would go around the village and beg for foodstuff, bhiksha. Yogiji Maharaj, accompanied by the blind saint Bhagwat Swarup Das Ji, would also go around to beg for food. Holding one of his hands, he led Bhagwat Swarup Das Ji along the road. A bag hung from Yogiji Maharaj's one other shoulder. When anybody offered flour, grain, etc., he would open his bag. As he walked, he kept searching the road so that no stone or thorn or pit could get in the way of Bhagwat Swarup Das. After the morning round was over, he cooked whatever alms they had received. He first devoutly offered the food to the Lord. Then, after serving everybody else, he would finally sit down to have his meal. Karan Sang Sang Bapu of Adwal often saw Yogiji Maharaj leading the blind and aged saint Bhagwat Swarup Das Ji while going around for alms. One day, he saw the barefooted Yogiji Maharaj begging for alms in the scorching heat of the summer. He felt pity for him. Yogiji Maharaj, he asked, why don't you take a younger sadhu with you? How difficult it must be with such an aged saint to go around asking for bhiksha. Yogiji Maharaj, with a smiling face, replied quietly, Bapu, it is my good fortune to have such an aged saint with me. I am extremely fortunate to learn from a revered old saint. While moving about with him, I get the benefit of his vast knowledge, experience, and wisdom. I also get the benefit of serving the temple by bringing in bhiksha. Karan Sang Sang Bapu could not but admire the good sense and kindliness of Yogiji Maharaj. He bowed to him silently as a token of respect. Once Yogiji Maharaj went to Narayan near the village of Mojidad, to have a dip in the holy river. A sadhu named Narayan Prasad, wild with envy, insulted and abused Yogiji Maharaj there. Yogiji Maharaj started chanting the name Swaminarayan, and after finishing his bath returned quietly to his residence without a word of retaliation. After some days had passed, and the monsoon had set in, this same sadhu, Narayan Prasad, alighted from the train at Botad railway station at 2 o'clock at night. The cart driver refused to take him to Kalyani. Walking wearily along the muddy road, he came to the Sri Akshar temple at Saharanpur and knocked on the door. A thorn had driven deep into his foot. Thus his foot was swollen, and he was in extreme agony. The watchman came, and reported to Yogiji Maharaj, "A saint has come, and wishes to stay for the night." Yogiji Maharaj went to receive him. He brought him inside with courtesy, and then removed the thorn from his foot and dressed the wound. He fed the man lovingly with prasad of puri and ladu. He made a bed for him, and he gently asked him to rest. In the morning he kept a cart ready to send Narayan Prasad to Kalyani. Narayan Prasad had recognized Yogiji Maharaj as the very sadhu he had insulted just a few days before. He felt ashamed, and soon underwent a complete change of heart. He thought, "Yogiji served me with love even though I had insulted him. He has not said a single word of rebuke. He has won me over completely with his great affection." Narayan Prasad quickly repented. Falling at the feet of Yogiji Maharaj, he burst out, "You are the embodiment of love, because you do good to those who have harmed you. You are just like the ideal Paramahansa, saint of Sriji Maharaj, one who repays animosity with love and affection." Receiving the blessings of Yogiji Maharaj, Narayan Prasad then left for
Chapter
Kalyani
18.
by cart. Temple service. Yogiji Maharaj liked to engage in the service of the Lord and the temple as much as he liked to render service to the saints and devotees. When engaged in such services, Yogi would forget hunger and fatigue. He obeyed all the commands of Satsang Maharaj, and sincerely and instantly. He served him and also helped him in all his work. Satsang Maharaj built the first temple in Bochasan and installed the image of Akshar and Purushottam in it. After some time, he also started building a temple in Saharanpur. During those days, due to the lack of funds, the sadhus and devotees also helped in the construction of the temple. Yogiji Maharaj too, after completing all of his normal duties, used to give a hand in the building of the temple. He carried on his head large stones for the masons to lay. He mixed lime and sand with a spade and provided the mixture. He assisted in digging and filling of the foundation. He was the youngest in age, but in service he excelled everyone. He was jubilant because of the images of Akshar and Purushottam were being installed when the temple was ready. How can one ever get such an opportunity to serve the Lord? One should therefore seize the opportunity for service when it comes, so that God may be pleased, he used to say. Satsang Maharaj was much pleased with Yogiji Maharaj's sincere service and loving nature. He frequently praised
Chapter
and blessed
19.
Yogiji Maharaj. Swami Shree accepts offerings. It was the time when the ceremony of Jaljini Ekadashi was being celebrated at Saharanpur. Satsang Maharaj, feeling unwell, was resting in his bed. Some devotees from Bhavnagar had come there to celebrate the function. After the ceremonies were over, Kubar, who was a leader among the devotees of Bhavnagar, spoke to Satsang Maharaj. "Unkind-hearted one, please come to Bhavnagar so that we can profit from your discourses." Satsang Maharaj replied, smiling, "I am not well at the moment, so instead of me, take Yogiji Maharaj. I shall be represented by Yogiji Maharaj." They were pleased with the words of Satsang Maharaj and returned to Bhavnagar along with Yogiji Maharaj with joyful anticipations. Jinabai, the nephew of Prabhudas Sheth, who was staying at Bhavnagar, invited Yogiji Maharaj and the other sadhus for lunch at his house. Pious Brahmin prepared ladu, soup, rice, vegetables, etc. When the meal was ready, Jinabai, along with Prabhudas Sheth, went to Yogiji Maharaj and made a request. "You have won the favor of Sriji Maharaj and Gaudiya Swami. Today, on our behalf, pray to them to accept Thar." Yogiji Maharaj laughed and answered, "Let us go and offer the Thal to Maharaj. Sriji Maharaj and Swami will surely appear and accept the Thar." So saying, Yogiji Maharaj entered the prayer room. The towel was placed before the Lord. Silver jugs filled with water were also placed near the image. Curtain was drawn. Yogiji Maharaj sat there, and all around him sat the devotees. Yogiji Maharaj sang the great devotional song, Avinashya. After half an hour, when the curtain lifted, they gasped in wonder for what had happened. 5 ladus, soup, and some rice had been accepted by the Lord. The water pot was also half empty. All the devotees were struck by the power and devotion of Yogiji Maharaj. They were convinced that Yogiji Maharaj enjoyed the favor and confidence of Swami and Shree and could fulfill their wishes. Devotion par excellence. Once Yogiji Maharaj and Nirgundas Swami were going to Gadara from Saharanpur by a bullock cart. It was a hot summer day, and the road was deserted. There were neither any wells nor rivers en route for water. It was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yogiji Maharaj had a small image of Sri Hari Krishna Maharaj. The time came to offer water to Hari Krishna Maharaj was fast approaching, but there was no water anywhere. Yogiji Maharaj became worried and upset. My Lord must be very thirsty. What shall I do? He said to himself. It was 6 in the evening when they had come to a river. Yogiji Maharaj asked the cart driver to stop by the riverside. He took the image of Lord Hari Krishna and bathed it in the river and offered it filtered water to drink. Yogiji Maharaj was still not fully satisfied. He prostrated and prayed repeatedly before the image. O Maharaj, please forgive me. Today I have failed to give you water on time. Please forgive me. On hearing this, Swami Nirgundasji, who was standing nearby, casually said, It wasn't your fault that we could not get any water on the way. You are not to blame. Still Yogiji Maharaj kept bowing to the image repeatedly and praying for forgiveness. Words fail to describe the full measure of his dedication, devotion, and humility. We should also cultivate these same virtues. Snakebite. A small monument dairy had been constructed at the place in Gondal, where the last rite of Sri Gunatidan Swami had been performed. To add to its sanctity, Satsang Maharaj started erecting a beautiful temple around the monument. Yogiji Maharaj was stationed there at the time. Every day, he used to get up early in the morning at 4 o'clock and perform puja of Chandravinda of Shriji Maharaj, which had been installed there. He offered worship to the Lord along with all his devotees. While the temple was being built, Yogiji Maharaj and other saints used to live in hut-like houses built of mud and bricks. Once, at midnight, when Yogiji Maharaj was asleep, a venomous black cobra bit the index finger of his left hand. The sudden rush of pain woke him up. As a result of the poison, the pain quickly spread through his whole body. However, Yogiji Maharaj did not complain. He kept on chanting the mantra Swaminarayan. Some anxious devotees suggested that a physician be called. Others proposed various remedies. Meanwhile, Satsang Maharaj arrived. When he had heard of the snake bite, he said, Please bring Yogiji Maharaj to the Akshar and chant the holy name of Swaminarayan. The effect of the poison will vanish if we summon to our aid the divine power of the Swaminarayan Mahamantra. Immediately, the Sadhus lifted Yogiji Maharaj and carried him to the Akshar and started chanting the holy name of Lord Swaminarayan. After exactly 12 hours, the effect of the poison subsided. Yogiji Maharaj opened his eyes and bowed to Satsang Maharaj. Just then, a government doctor arrived. He was amazed to see the effect of the poison had been nullified by the chanting of the Swaminarayan mantra. He felt at the feet of Satsang Maharaj. The king of Gondal and his officers were also surprised at the divine power of the Akshar. They were convinced that it was a highly sanctified
Chapter
place.
22. Head of Akshar Mandir. It was the year of Vikram Samvat 1990. Most of the construction work of the Gondal temple, also called Akshar Mandir, had been completed. In the same year, on the 10th day of the bright half of the month of Vaishak, Satsang Maharaj installed the images of Akshar Purushottam in the temple with all religious ceremonies. After the function, a meeting of all the devotees was held in the compound of the temple. Here, in the presence of thousands of devotees, Satsang Maharaj appointed Yogiji Maharaj as the Mahant of the Akshar Mandir and garlanded him. The whole assembly greeted the choice with joy and acclaim. To Yogiji Maharaj, this Akshar Mandir and Akshar Deity meant everything in his life. The Akshar Deity was dearer to him than his soul. He was never tired of performing pradakshinas of their deity. He would get up early in the morning at 3:30 and sweep the floor in their deity. After performing the puja of the Charnavinda with sandalwood paste and flowers, he would perform arti. Then he gave spiritual discourses to the devotees. He also performed Mahapuja in the deity regularly. During the Mahapuja, he prayed wholeheartedly that he might have the opportunity to spread the influence of the faith far and wide. During his free hours, he kept the accounts of the temple himself, maintained the ledger. Yogiji Maharaj looked after the maintenance of the temple, and himself attended to the needs and the comforts of any guest. He was extremely gratified by the increase in the flow of visitors to the temple. He never allowed any visitors to leave without entertaining them fully. Rana Daji Bapu assisted him in many of his duties. One day, Daji Bapu wanted to consult Yogiji Maharaj on matters pertaining to the temple accounts. He searched for him in the kothar, but did not find him there. Thinking that he might be in the dairy or upstairs in the temple, he went there to look for him, but he was not there either. After searching for him everywhere, he finally went to kitchen, where he found him cooking, all by himself. Seeing the head of such a big temple working like an ordinary cook in the kitchen, he said, "I've been searching for you for a long time. You work so hard. Why must you also cook? Where is the saint who cooks daily?" Yogiji Maharaj quietly replied, "The cook is ill. By the grace of God, today I have got the rare chance of cooking and serving God in this way. For a long time I've been thinking of preparing food to serve the Lord. Only today have I got the opportunity. It is very precious to me." Hearing these noble sentiments, Bapu could not but admire the saint more than ever before. "For a long time I've been thinking of preparing food to serve the Lord. Only today have I got the opportunity. It is very precious to me." Hearing these noble sentiments, Bapu could not but admire the saint more than ever before. But he went and inquired of the sadhu in charge of the kitchen, and found that the man was not ill at all. He and some other sadhus were loitering around and not doing their duty. He scolded them. "Yogiji Maharaj works day and night. Do you want to add still further to his duties?" he asked. He then ordered them to go back to the kitchen immediately. Along with Yogiji Maharaj, Bapu went to the temple office to finish the accounts. Hearing these noble sentiments, Bapu could not but admire the saint more than ever before. But he went and inquired of the sadhu who was in charge of the kitchen, and found out that sadhu was not doing. Hearing this noble sentiments, Bapu could not but admire the saint more than ever before. But he went and inquired of the sadhu who was in charge of the kitchen, and found that the man was not ill at all. He and some other sadhus were not doing their duty. He scolded them and told them, "Yogiji Maharaj works day and night. Do you want to add still further to his duties?" he asked. He then ordered them to go back to the kitchen right away. Along with Yogiji Maharaj, Bapu went to the temple office to finish the accounts. Chapter 23. Devotion to Master. Yogiji Maharaj used to eat only once a day. Moreover, every third day he observed a fast. Even on days of fasting, he would carry his luggage on his own head, while visiting villages in the company of Satsang Maharaj. Whether it was in the scorching heat of the summer or cold of the winter, he would pass the whole day in the service of others. Owing to such an innocent, heavy work, he fell a victim to an illness called hernia. Later on in the year Vikram Samvat 1993, Dr. Aspinall, a surgeon attached to the Rajkot hospital, was consulted. After examining Yogiji Maharaj, he said, "Swamiji, you will have to undergo an operation. This cannot be cured by medicine." And so on a request from Satsang Maharaj, Jinabai reserved a special room in the Rajkot hospital for the operation. At the time, Satsang Maharaj was also under medical treatment at Gondal. Still, he came to Rajkot before the day of the operation. Though it was winter and very cold, Satsang Maharaj, as usual, got up early in the morning. and after finishing his morning puja, he went to the hospital without a delay. As he entered the hospital premises, the attendants were carrying Yogiji Maharaj on a stretcher to the operating theater. On seeing Satsang Maharaj, Yogiji Maharaj was overcome with joy. He folded his hands. Satsang Maharaj then blessed him. After this, Yogiji Maharaj was taken to operating theater. The doctor conducted the operation very skillfully. When the operation was over, Yogiji Maharaj was carried back on a stretcher to his room in the hospital. Yogiji Maharaj had brought the image of Sri Hari Krishna Maharaj to the hospital and had placed it on a table in front of his bed. The devotees were all sitting on the floor around the bed. Satsang Maharaj was sitting on a chair in front of the bed and chanting with rosary in hand. After about 2 hours, the effect of anesthetic subsided. Yogiji Maharaj stirred in his bed and opened his eyes. Satsang Maharaj was sitting right in front of him and smiling softly. Immediately, Yogiji Maharaj folded his hands and asked the devotees that were sitting nearby in a low voice, "Has milk been served to Satsang Maharaj?" The question came as a surprise to the devotees. They all felt that Yogiji could not be said to have been unconscious. The question came as a surprise to the devotees. They all felt that Yogiji Maharaj could not be said to have been unconscious during the operation. The question came as a surprise to the devotees. They all felt that Yogiji Maharaj could not be said to have been unconscious during the operation, but in a trance. It was a state in which he remembered the Guru always and at all times. Yogiji Maharaj was, so to say, the personal attendant of Satsang Maharaj at Gondal. There he served him daily with milk, medicine, etc. When he awoke, the first thing he remembered was his duty to his Guru. How unique was his devotion and kindship with his Chapter
Guru.
24. Satsang Maharaj is still with us. Sometime in the year Vikram Samvat 2007, Satsang Maharaj fell ill. One day he said, "I have performed the arati of the images to be installed in Gadara temple. They will now be ritually installed by Yogiji Maharaj. As I cannot do the installation ceremony in my present condition, there is a spiritual identity between myself and Yogi. I am Yogi, and Yogi is myself." These were his last words. On the 4th day of the bright half of Vaishak, he reverted to Akshardham. His body was cremated next day. The devotees were in a deep shock. They all thought, "Satsang Maharaj has gone. Now what will happen to us?" No one knew what to do. At that time, Yogiji Maharaj gave strength to everyone. He said, "Satsang Maharaj has not gone. We should never believe that Satsang Maharaj has gone from our minds. Satsang Maharaj is forever present in the fellowship." Listening to these words of Yogiji Maharaj, everyone came to understand that Sriji Maharaj was ever present in Satsang Maharaj, and that same Sriji Maharaj is now present in Yogiji Maharaj. Satsang Maharaj will now make us happy through Yogiji Maharaj. All saw Satsang Maharaj in Yogiji Maharaj. The spiritual eyes of all opened. 6 days after the passing away of Satsang Maharaj to Akshardham, with great fanfare and the holy presence of Yogiji Maharaj, the images were installed in Gadara temple. The date was Vikram Samvat 2007, Vaishak Sud Das. 6 days after the passing away of Satsang Maharaj to Akshardham, 6 days after the passing away of Satsang Maharaj to Akshardham, with the great fanfare in the holy presence of Yogiji Maharaj, the images were installed in Gadara temple. The date was Vikram Samvat 2007, Vaishak Sud 10. 50,000 devotees had assembled to witness the ceremony. Conviction ran strongly that Shastri Maharaj was always present in the satsang. All opponents and vilifiers were disappointed. They had thought, as Shastri Maharaj had reverted to Akshardham, no one would attend the ceremony. There would be no unity, and the whole Akshar Purushottam fellowship would collapse, since there was no one fit enough to step into the place of Shastri Maharaj. But they were amazed by the personality of Yogiji Maharaj. The glory of Akshar Purushottam spread in all directions. It was the beginning of a new era. An enormous amount of work was still waiting to be done by Yogiji Maharaj. The glory of Akshar Purushottam spread in all directions. It was the beginning of a new era. And tremendous amount of work was still waiting to be done by Yogiji Maharaj. He captured the hearts of all the devotees and won their respect and admiration. Chapter 25. Youth Organizations and Satsang Meetings. Yogiji Maharaj had been conducting weekly satsang meetings of the devotees for a long time. After the departure of Shastri Maharaj, Yogiji Maharaj injected into these activities. Gradually, he established a youth organization. In the beginning, only a few youths attended the meetings. The organizers, therefore, were somewhat discouraged, but Swamiji would console with them with words of sympathy and cheer. It will grow, he would promise in every village or town he visited. He kept a personal record and encouraged them by writing to the members regularly. In no time at all, many youth organizations sprang up in India. Moreover, groups were also formed for smaller children. Religious instruction was provided for them as well. Yogiji Maharaj would frequently say, one should attend the weekly meetings even at the cost of losing a lot of money. It is not possible to meet the devotees individually in their homes, but if we attend a satsang meeting, then we can meet our elders and youth friends at the same time. We get an opportunity to learn about the moral and spiritual beliefs of our fellowship. Moreover, at such gatherings, Sriji Maharaj, Gunatitanand Swami, and Shastri Maharaj are divinely present, so one should never miss these meetings. Yogiji Maharaj took a close interest in all the activities of the youths. Such activities as lecturing, performing yogic asanas, forming bands, staging dramas, and ras, which were organized by these youths, were observed by him. He blessed them and applauded for their efforts. He would listen attentively to their articles in the handwritten magazines, which were read out to him. He used to say that a handwritten journal should be put out every 3 months. Yogiji Maharaj exhorted everyone to take part regularly in such activities. Yogiji Maharaj exhorted everyone to take part regularly in such activities.
Chapter 26. Youths and Yogi Raj. Youth and small children were very dear to Yogiji Maharaj. He once said, young people are as precious to me as my heart. And he cared for them as one cares for one's heart. He spoke to them affectionately, showed genuine interest in whatever they had said, and lovingly put his hands on their head and shoulders in appreciation. Moving his delicate hands around his neck, he would quietly check whether a boy had a gunti or not. If anyone was found without a gunti, he would immediately give them one. He won them over by showering them upon with more love than even a mother could do. During the summer and Diwali vacations, Yogiji Maharaj used to take the youths around the villages with him. During this time, he would be taught Samanivatos, Vajramrit, etc. Yogiji Maharaj walked holding the hand of some young man or another. It was a pleasurable sight to see young people walking on both sides of Yogi, and to see the Yogi, who was just like a youth, walking in the center. He took personal care of these young people who toured the villages with him. He personally served them food, prepared bread for them, and in the case anyone fell ill, he himself cared for the patient during the illness. Yogiji Maharaj used to get up early at 4:30 in the morning, and would then awaken the youths. He gave discourses on subjects like Agna, Upasana, and Seva. He especially admired those who could observe the complete fast with neither food nor even a drop of water. He showed his joy by patting them on their backs. At 11 o'clock at night, after the evening meeting of the devotees was over, Yogiji Maharaj gathered all the youths in a quiet corner of the hall. He encouraged them to converse among themselves in any language they like, whether English or Hindi or Gujarati. He would sometimes make fun by using English words even though he did not know much English. Yogiji Maharaj captivated the hearts of even college students. He helped many get rid of bad habits such as smoking and visiting the cinema. He advised them to live a pure and simple life, well-regulated life, and thus prepare them to become ideal citizens. He persuaded them to accompany him for a month or two during the vacations when they left at the end. He advised them to lead a useful, righteous life, and to attend regularly their weekly meetings. Again, he reminded them that if there wasn't a youth organization in their village, they should establish one. He was full of enthusiasm for the movement and promised to write them regularly. His affection for them was so great that he would take the trouble of walking up to the temple gate to see them off. The young people who thus parted from Yogiji Maharaj, who had become their idol and object of love, felt the pangs of separation keenly. Often their eyes were filled with tears when they left.
Chapter 27. Youths become sadhus. It took less than 10 years for Yogiji Maharaj to form groups of dedicated youths in many different areas and train them. Because of his all-pervading influence, these young men led a simple and pious life. They fasted every 5th day. They slept on an ordinary carpet without using even a pillow. They had cold water baths. They had cold water baths every morning and made it a point to apply tilak and chanlo to their foreheads. They did not eat or drink anything that was not prepared at home, and they never saw any films. By special orders from Yogiji Maharaj, many such youths were trained for the life and vocation of a sadhu. He once said, "I want you to become saints. Will you agree?" The educated and cultured young men who were captivated by his personality and unlimited love readily agreed and surrendered their whole life to the cause of satsang. Once, Yogiji Maharaj wrote a letter to a young man who wanted to become a saint. "I do not want you to become a sadhu to serve me. I want to teach you Brahm Vidya, which will enable you to realize God. I want to help you liberate your soul. I want thousands of our devotees to benefit by the satsang, and through you reveal to the world the eternal truths of the doctrine of Akshar and Purushottam." Many parents realized the lofty ideals of Swamiji and agreed willingly to dedicate their beloved sons to the mission and its noble task. Large groups of highly educated young men were eager and anxious to be initiated into monkhood. In the year of Vikram Samvat 2017, on the 12th day of the dark half of the month of Vaishak, which was the 70th birthday of Yogiji Maharaj. In the year Vikram Samvat 2017, on the 12th day of the dark half of the month of Vaisak, which was the 70th. In the year Vikram Samvat 2017, on the 12th day of the dark half of the month of Vaishak, which was 70th birthday of Yogiji Maharaj. In the year Vikram Samvat 2017, on the 12th day of the dark half of the month of Vaishak, Yogiji Maharaj turned 70. The spires of Gadpur temple were fitted with golden kalash. On this auspicious day, Yogiji Maharaj initiated into Bhagavati Diksha 51 well-educated young men. In the whole Swaminarayan fellowship and in the entire history of the sect, this was the only occasion when on a single day as many as 51 highly educated young people assumed the saffron robes. It was a milestone in the history of religious order. The credit goes directly to Yogiji Maharaj. the credit goes directly to Yogiji Maharaj. This occasion will be written in letters of gold in the annals of Satsang history. The credit goes to Yogiji Maharaj, and this occasion will be written in letters of gold in our Satsang history. Later on, many young men with high qualification from India, as well as England, Africa, and other places approached Swamiji for the purpose of initiation as sadhus. Such enthusiasm gave great impetus to the fellowship and its future course of development. This group of devoted young men, trained and nurtured by Yogiji Maharaj in their pre-initiated days, later started preaching in India and abroad, and explained to the people the hopes and beliefs of true doctrine. They totally dedicated themselves to the noble cause of spreading the true faith, and thus elevated the lives of thousands. Chapter 28. Yogiji Maharaj's Life Work. Yogiji Maharaj was tireless in his mission of explaining the upasana of Akshar Purushottam to the world at large. He toured villages day and night. He was found in one village in the morning, and in the evening he would be in another. Wherever he went, he was welcomed. Aspirants in large numbers queue up to receive Vartman from him. There was an unending series of celebration, and many congregations were held. He gained a mass following, and so the institution progressed and expanded. Yogiji Maharaj started satsang organization in many different villages. He arranged for the satsangis to receive spiritual guidance through regular correspondence. He twice visited pilgrim centers by twice conducting all India pilgrimage tours by special trains, which carried sadhus and haribhaks. These pilgrim centers were further sanctified by the visits of Yogiji Maharaj, and the inhabitants had many remarkable experiences because of the influence exerted through satsang. He prevailed up the government to build a platform at the railway station in Chapaya and name it Swaminarayan Chapaya. A tremendous welcome was given to him when he arrived at Chapaya. In recognition of Swamiji's greatness, devotees all over celebrated the 65th birthday of Yogiji Maharaj, which fell in recognition of Swamiji's greatness, devotees all over celebrated the 65th birthday of Yogiji Maharaj, which fell on the 12th day of the dark half of the month of Vaishak of Vikram Samvat 2012 in Sarangpur. About 1 lakh devotees assembled there to offer their love to him. Yogiji Maharaj fulfilled the desire of his guru, Sastriji Maharaj, when he established a temple, Hari Mandir, Akshar Bhavan at Bombay in the Vikram Samvat 2018. In the same year, he had a 3-spired temple erected in Ahmedabad and installed the images of Akshar Purushottam on the 7th day of the bright half of Vaisak. He was also a promoter in erecting a fine temple at Merdal, the birth of Sastriji Maharaj. In this temple, besides picture images, he also installed a marble statue of Sastriji Maharaj. In this temple, besides the picture images, he also installed a marble statue of Sastriji Maharaj. Vikram Samvat 2021 was a centenary year. Vikram Samvat 2021, it was 100 years before that Sastriji Maharaj had manifested himself on this earth. Yogiji Maharaj was himself 74 and was in very delicate health. Yet he visited 82 villages in the shivering cold of the winter and was in Vikram Samvat 2021, it was 100 years before that Sastriji Maharaj had manifested himself on this earth. Yogiji Maharaj was himself 74 and was in very delicate health. Yet he visited 82 villages in the shivering cold of the winter, and was out on tour for 38 days. Yet he visited 82 villages in the shivering cold of the winter, and was out on tour for 38 days, collecting funds for the centenary celebration. He was prepared to undergo any amount of hardships for the sake of celebrating the centenary in a fitting manner. On a Vasant Panchami, Vikram Samvat 2021, at Atladra, he demonstrated before the devotees of the whole fellowship the full meaning of ideal Guru Bhakti by his tireless exertion and unflagging enthusiasm. To promote a faster advancement of knowledge, he established a students' hostel in Vidyanagar and Gurukul in Gondal. Primary and secondary schools were also started at Gondal. On the 76th birthday of Yogiji Maharaj, thousands of his followers in India and abroad decided to celebrate the birthday of the great saint. On the 76th birthday of Yogiji Maharaj, thousands of his followers in India and abroad decided to celebrate the birthday of the great saint, who was a manifestation of Shree Maharaj, with due pomp and ceremony. A souvenir publication named Amrut Parva, describing his glorious character and service, was also published on this occasion. The occasion also witnessed the grant of a magnificent The occasion also witnessed on the grant of donation of 25,000 rupees to the Gujarat government for the purpose of stricken people. 200,000 devotees attended the celebration at Gondal. The honorable guest eulogized his life and character in glowing terms. There were meetings at all the world centers where his followers paid tribute to a rare personality, praised his manifold virtues. Yogiji Maharaj himself participated with his followers at the labor camp which was entrusted with the task of constructing the Gunadit Nagar, which was a railway station at Badra, the birthplace of Akshar Brahm Sri Gunaditanand Swami. He built a marvelous single-spired temple over the house where Gunaditanand Swami was born. In it, he installed the images of Dham, Dhami, and Mukt. On the 6th day of the bright half of Vaishak in the year Vikram Samvat 2025. Vedas, the book containing the Lord's teachings, was republished. Vedas, the book containing the Lord's teachings, was republished at his request. He also ordered the publication. Vedas, the book containing the Lord's teaching, was republished at his request. He also ordered the publication of the biographies of his Guru Sasriji Maharaj, as well as Bhagaji Maharaj, during Vedas, the book containing the Lord's teachings, was republished at his request. He also ordered the publication of the biographies of his Guru Sasriji Maharaj, as well as that of Bhagaji Maharaj. During the centenary celebration of his Guru, he wanted a souvenir publication named Yagna Purush Smruti also to be brought out. A huge volume of Harilila Kalpataru, inspired by Gunaditanand Swami and written by Achintyanand Brahmachari, was also published through his initiative. Hindi and English versions of the life and philosophy of Lord Swaminarayan, as well as the Vachnamrit, were also published. A biography of Gunaditanand Swami was also printed because of the personal interest he took in the old manuscript. He procured a vast circulation of the monthly Swaminarayan Prakash. It had the blessings of Sasriji Maharaj. All who belonged to the fellowships became its regular readers. A weekly named Swaminarayan Satsang Pariksha was also started to provide the instruction and also news regarding the satsang to members in various centers to enable them to conduct regular Sunday meetings. Yogiji Maharaj organized facilities for higher education in Sanskrit for young sadhus and also established a Sanskrit school in Bombay. By his influence and blessings, many saints became Shastris and Acharyas in the Sanskrit language. Some of the saints received government scholarships and doctorate degrees because of their high caliber. Moreover, many young sadhus were also encouraged to develop various innate skills in music, art, painting, etc. Some of the saints received government scholarships and doctorate degrees because of their high caliber. Many young sadhus were also encouraged to develop Some of the saints received government scholarships and doctorate degrees because of their high caliber. Also, many more young sadhus were also encouraged to Some of the saints received government scholarship and doctorate degrees because of their high caliber. Many young sadhus were also encouraged to develop various innate skills in music, art, painting, etc. Yogiji Maharaj built many temples. He called congregation and arranged seminars which spread the benefits of satsang widely among his followers. Many new people were attracted to his faith, and the fellowship expanded considerably. What is remarkable about Yogiji Maharaj is that he was also highly respected by leaders of many different religions. They often approached him for guidance and even for his blessings. They said, Yogiji Maharaj belongs to all. He's not for the Swaminarayan sect only. Yogiji Maharaj belongs to all. Yogiji Maharaj belongs to all. He is not for the Swaminarayan sect only, but for the whole world. The reason behind this widespread respect was that Yogiji Maharaj respected every faith. He showed tolerance and understanding towards all religions. He never allowed anyone to criticize any faith or sect. In India and in Africa, Yogiji Maharaj visited without any hesitation temples dedicated to Ram, Shiva, or any other deity. He never allowed anyone to criticize any faith or sect. In India and in Africa, Yogiji Maharaj visited without any hesitations temples dedicated to Ram, Shiva, or any other deity. He also visited Sikh Gurudwar, Jain Derasars, and Christian churches. He had great respect for all religions. Thousands of aspirants from different climes and regions were admitted to the fold and became followers of Lord Swaminarayan, all because of the efforts of Yogiji Maharaj. Whatever his faith, when the man came into contact with Yogiji Maharaj, a change came over him, and he accepted Yogiji Maharaj as his guru. Thus, attracted many Jains, Sikhs, Parsi, Muslims, and also Africans and Europeans to the fellowship. This itself indicated what a great personality and leader Yogiji Maharaj was. Today, we see many saints who allow relaxation or adjustment in their codes of conduct to attract more followers, but they do not succeed. Not does their reputation shine thereby, where Yogiji Maharaj observed strictly the rule of eightfold celibacy and the renunciation of wealth. He implicitly obeyed even the most trifling commands of the Lord, despite the utmost severity and self-control required for the observance of these rules of conduct. He performed remarkable tasks and achieved marvelous results. He captured the hearts of all his followers, and to countless the other his name became scared. He captured the hearts of all his followers, and to countless others his name became scared. He captured the hearts of all his followers, and to countless other his name became scarce, to be chanted in the morning and always remembered.
Chapter 29. Dark Places Enlightened. Owing to the persistent request of his followers living in East Africa, Yogiji Maharaj visited East Africa for the first time in the year Vikram Samvat 2012, 1955 AD. He installed the images of Akshar in the big temple in Mombasa. He established the Lord's footprints carved in marble on the cremation ground of Shree Maganbhai, a respected veteran leader, who inducted many people into the spiritual way of life. Many new aspirants were admitted into the faith. Many congregations were held at various places. These sanctified many hearts. Yogiji Maharaj traveled thousands of miles, and wherever he went, he brought enlightenment into the dark corners of the continent of Africa. As a result of this visit, many new organizations of youths and elders were established. Their enthusiasm was sustained by a regular flow of correspondence. Later on, they built temples in Kampala, Jinja, and Tororo, and they requested Yogiji Maharaj to visit East Africa once again to perform the image installation ceremonies in these temples. So once again, Yogiji Maharaj visited East Africa and also Aden in the year Vikram Samvat 2017, 1960 AD. He conducted the installation ceremonies of the images at Kampala, Jinja, and Tororo. He traveled 35,000 miles, visiting 103 centers in 7 different countries. He succeeded in attracting many new aspirants to the fellowship. The satsang in Africa became stronger and stronger. In other Western countries, movements were started in the UK, USA, and Canada. Especially in the US and UK, many aspirants embraced the new faith. In Africa, the devotees purchased large plots of land in Gulu and Nairobi, and erected huge temples. Again the devotees appealed to Swamiji to visit them once more. Yogiji Maharaj, in spite of ill health, was moved by their devotion and agreed to visit East Africa for the 3rd time. In the year Vikram Samvat 2026, 1970 AD, he set forth on his 3rd foreign tour. He installed the images in a grand ceremony in the temple built on the main road in Nairobi. Although it was for the last time, the devotees were overwhelmed with joy. His followers in London bought a church hall and converted it into a temple. They invited him to London to install images in the temple. Pleased by their devotion, Yogiji Maharaj went to London. He was given a great welcome. He was honored with a procession accompanied by the RAF band through the main roads of the city. He performed the installation of the ceremony of the images in the temple in Islington, near the heart of the city of London. Many foreigners, impressed by the spirituality of Yogiji Maharaj, joined the fellowship. During the ceremony on the River Thames in London, the image of Lord Hare Krishna was bathed in the river. Thus, the Thames, too, became a sacred river. After fully explaining the tenets and general philosophy of Lord Swaminarayan to large audiences at various places, Yogiji Maharaj ended his visit, which by then had lasted about a month and a half. He then returned to India, and sent 4 Sadhus to the USA to explain the nature of his fellowship and propagate the faith.
Chapter 30. His body was reception and departure. Here on the 24th January, the visit gave immense. After all the funeral rites were over, happiness, the body was put on a pyre in the compound on the right of the temple. The fire was ignited by Pramukh Swami after spending a total of 1,000 devotees from India and abroad offered their last homage to Yogiji Maharaj. An impressive memorial is erected at this place to inspire old followers and new aspirants. Everywhere people sang his praises. He was all given a grand reception at the Sumukhanand Hall, the largest auditorium in Asia. His life, work, and achievements were highly eulogized. Swami Chinmayanand, who presided at the function, said, "While Indian youths imitate Western culture, this grand old saint at the age of 80 went to England for the propagation of the Hindu religion. It is really marvelous that he could prevail upon them all to cultivate virtues such as truth and rightness." A public reception on the same scale was also accorded to him at Baroda. In Ahmedabad, the capital of Gujarat, Yogiji Maharaj had the grandest welcome. of all. He was taken in the big procession through the main roads of the city. Yogiji Maharaj was the center of attraction in a mile-long procession, where some 500,000 to 600,000 people turned up to have his darshan. In the city's Tagore Hall, the chief minister of Gujarat and other ministers and heads of various religions assembled together and paid their respects and tributes to him. The chief minister, Shree Hitendrabhai Desai, to honor Yogiji Maharaj is to honor the hero of Indian civilization. To honor Yogiji Maharaj is to honor the liberator of the whole of mankind. Today, we are getting Yogiji Maharaj as a real giver of peace, as one of who has destroyed all miseries which are caused by the many unpleasant incidents taking place in India and abroad. He was given a rousing reception at many other places, like Limdi, Gadara, Bhavnagar, Mahua, Amreli, Rajkot, and Gondal. Even in such a busy program, he attended to all his religious duties and other humanitarian tasks, which he discharged with the utmost care and love. During his last visit to Sarangpur, he declared open the golden Sinhasan prepared for the Lord. This was a highly cherished desire of Satsang Maharaj, and it was at last fulfilled. There were heavy rains in Bhavnagar, but despite the weather, he came out to lay the foundation of stone of the new temple. In Moa, he officiated the image installation ceremony in the temple built at the birthplace of Bhagaji Maharaj, who was the guru of Satsang Maharaj. The leading politicians of Gujarat, educationalists, social worker, revered sages, heads of various religions, industrialists, doctors, lawyers, in short, representatives from all walks of life hail the glorious work done by Yogiji Maharaj for the spiritual advancement of man. He then went to Gondal to have a rest. During this period, in Gondal, on the auspicious occasion of Sharad Purnima, he unveiled a beautiful marble statue of Satsang Maharaj, which was artistically placed on a fine marble platform behind Akshar deity. He thus fulfilled the heartfelt desires of one and all in the fellowship. He invited all the devotees there and showered up on them divine blessings. He celebrated publicly many small things and big occasions to remain as precious memory in the hearts of all devotees. All of a sudden, he decided to invite illness. It is not always possible to understand the action of such godly saints. The illness worsened. Any treatment of the disease was possibly only at Bombay, and he was immediately flown there. But on the 23rd of January, 1971, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he bade Jai Swaminarayan to all, and left this world for Akshardham. His body was flown to Gondal. Here on the 24th January 1971, after all the funeral rites were over, the body was put on a pyre in the compound on the right of the temple. The fire was ignited by Swami Narayan Swarup Dasji. Thousands of devotees from India and abroad offered their last homage to Yogiji Maharaj. An impressive memorial is erected at this place to inspire old followers and new aspirants. Chapter 31. The Likings of Yogiji Maharaj. Yogiji Maharaj used to wear only a coarse clothes till the last days of his life. He was very simple and liked to spend his time in service. He always ate plain food which he himself mixed in a wooden bowl and ate only after adding water to it. Whenever there was any special dish or if there were any sweet, he would fast on that day. He always had a smile on his face. He mixed with young and old alike freely, inquired about their welfare, and blessed them all. He prayed to Shriji Maharaj that the miseries of mankind may disappear or lessen. He chanted the Mahamantra, Swaminarayan, constantly with a rosary in his hand. Yogiji Maharaj loved children very much. He called them to him Yogiji Maharaj loved children very much. He called them affectionately and made them sing Swaminarayan. Yogiji Maharaj loved children very much. He called them and made them sing Swami ane Narayan, Akshara ne Purushottam, Atma ne Paramatma, Brahma ne Parabrahm. Yogiji Maharaj loved children very much. He called them affectionately and made them sing Swami ane Narayan, Akshara ne Purushottam, Atma ne Paramatma, Brahma ne Parabrahm. He often gathered the children around him and made them sing bhajans and taught them Swami Nivato. He narrated stories from the life of Shriji Maharaj, Gunaditanand Swami, and to point a moral or teach the children the truth. He also narrated incidents from the lives of Sasiji Maharaj and Bhagaji Maharaj as illustration of correct thought and conduct. He taught everyone how to perform puja and arti and gave them prasad, which coming He taught everyone how to perform puja and arti and gave them prasad. He taught everyone how to perform puja and arti and gave them prasad, which coming from him was doubly delicious. Yogiji Maharaj used to tell young people that they should get up early in the morning. After getting up, one should first remember Lord Swaminarayan. Then, finishing one's bath, one should perform puja. One should then prostrate before the Lord and read 5 verses from the Shikshapatri. After puja, one should do one's schoolwork. School children should study regularly for 4 hours a day, and college students for 8 hours. One's elders must always be shown due respect. One should always bow down to one's parents. One should always bow to one's parents. Before going to school or college, one must apply tilak and chanlo to one's forehead. Every boy should visit the temple daily. He should attend the weekly meetings without fail. He should commit to memory Swami Nivato, Vachnamrut, and Kirtans. Milk and water should be filtered before drinking. One should fast on Ekadashi. One should not steal, nor should one use another's material without permission. One should not touch another's lost property. One should not smoke or tell lies. One should neither see films nor attend plays. One should not eat in hotels or in the bazaar.
Chapter 32 Sermons of Yogiji Maharaj 1. We should pray to God before eating or drinking or going out. In short, before starting any task or activity, we should remember God. 2. We should read regularly 2 Vachnamrits and 10 Swaminivatu. 3. We should recite bhajans, Vachnamrit, Swaminivatu, etc., which have been committed to memory. 4. Wherever the faithful assemble, they should not talk about worldly affairs, but should discuss religious matters. They should discourse on the divinity of the Lord and the godliness of his saint. They should recollect and ponder over what saints have preached and advised. 5. Our aim should be to get rid of whatever vices we have. We should never lose our temper, but should remain calm. If one behaves fairly and justly with one's guru, then at once achieves perfection by his grace. 6. Those who acquire philosophical and religious knowledge, and also practice service simultaneously, progress rapidly. Therefore, we should not avoid doing our daily tasks or duties, big or small. We should take it in practice to attend religious meetings and discourses. 8. During floods, big trees stand erect are often washed away, whereas the grass under our feet remains in place in spite of heavy water flow. Thus, if on account of our ego we remain foolishly obstinate, we will suffer. It could even mean crisis for man so afflicted. But if we do our duty humbly and render service, no matter how small or low, then our ego will not disturb us, and we will be able to become one and uphold satsang. 8. The youth should remain in unity. friendship and sense of fraternity amongst themselves. 9. The whole satsang should be regarded as sacred. We must see the spark of divinity in all the devotees. Our spiritual master, Guru, whom God manifests himself, must be considered perfect being. One should never disregard God and speak ill about his devotees. 10. Young people should not make fun of others or indulge in mischief. They should always behave themselves and should be modest. 11. One should not think of action, forms, or faults of other people. One should think more of their own faults and actions. 12. One should cultivate the habit of thinking sympathetically of others' duties, difficulties, and hardships, whether emotional or physical. The Lord and the saints are pleased with those who suffer hardships patiently. 13. One should try to make do with anything that comes one's way, irrespective of adequacy or quality, be it a place allotted for staying or the food or clothes provided. One should be content with what one has been given and should never complain about trifling matters. 14. Fire changes everything to its own color, whereas water takes the color of whatever is poured in and mixed with it. Similarly, we should influence others for their good, but we should not be influenced by others' vices or weaknesses. 15. While walking on the road, one should walk with one's eyes cast down. One should not be affected by the temptations offered by the city. One who resides in the city is always exposed to the evil of temptation from the environment. Young people should therefore avoid sinful thoughts. If one visits the temple regularly and develops love for the Lord and the saint, then despite living in the city, one will be immune to temptation. 16. Saintly virtues could be cultivated. Evil habits, swabhav, prevalent in one's nature should be discarded. One great virtue is tolerance, and another is compassion. Our behavior must be such that it is an influence for good. 17. Unselfish service of the devotees of God confers with the highest honor and dignity of man. Even the lowest of services, such as cleaning the utensils of the devotees, washing their clothes, cleaning the latrines of the temples, and the dining halls, and collecting the leftover forms from the dishes, pleases God. One may be a man of high mark, but even then he should not think it too low to perform such services. Those desiring spiritual emancipation should have regular training in the performance of such tasks. Every devotee must take it upon carrying out these humble duties. 18. Non-violence and celibacy must strictly be observed. One should remember that one's soul is Gunati, Akshar, or Brahm. 19. The Lord, His divine abode, and the Mukta are all eternal. Yogiji Maharaj Purushottam is the supreme incarnation. He is the sole doer. He is the personal and transcendental, supreme entity who is ever present. Gunadithan Swami, who is Brahman personified, is the divine abode of Yogiji Maharaj, and the realized Saint Guru. He is the gateway to Akshardham. One must have complete faith in these doctrines. Chapter 33. Swami Shree Narayan Swarup Das Ji. In the year of Vikram Samvat 2006, Satsang Maharaj appointed Satsang Narayan Swarup Das Ji as the administrative head of the Sanstha, Bochasan Wasi Sri Akshar Purushottam Sanstha. All devotees were asked to work under his orders and guidance. He was only 20 years old at the time. Since then, Satsang Narayan Swarup Das Ji has been known by the name Pramukh Swami. Yogiji Maharaj, referring to an incident in his diary, has written as follows. Satsang Maharaj desired that I should appoint only him as president of the Sanstha, and he was so appointed at a meeting in Ahmedabad. I was then sitting beside Satsang Maharaj, who told me, "Put your hand on his head and bless him so that he acquires all the virtues and sanctity that you have." So I put my hand on his head, whereupon Satsang Maharaj said, "Since you and I are the same, it is like my putting my own hand on his head." In this way, Swamiji asked me to bless him, and when I did, he became very happy. Since then, in accordance with his wishes of Yogiji Maharaj, Pramukh Swami has been working and continues to work day and night to further the causes of institution and fellowship. Many sadhus and devotees celebrated the 48th birthday of Sri Pramukh Swami Maharaj in Bombay. On this occasion, Yogiji Maharaj had said, Satsang Maharaj has been highly pleased with him ever since his younger days and appointed him the president. How fast and how admirably has he developed in the order and fellowship. All should obey him implicitly. Pramukh Swami is the manifestation of Satsang Maharaj. The identity between these two forms is complete. We should all develop the same divine knowledge. 700 saints will be initiated and will attain perfection. This task and mission will be fulfilled by Prabhu Swami. Yogiji Maharaj foretold a glorious career of work and fulfillment for Prabhu Swami Maharaj. During his last illness, Yogiji Maharaj said, Prabhu Swami is none other than me in another body. All of you will enjoy the bliss of God through him. At present, our beloved Master Guru, His Divine Holiness Sri Narayan Das Ji, Prabhu Swami Maharaj.